Okay.
Right. Very warm welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for choosing us to inform you this evening. You know what time it is. It's time for the Daily Report and later on, the People's Court. With me, Victor Muyakane, and my lovely and power-packed colleagues, George and Linda.
Well, it's always a pleasure doing this with the people and the two of you. I have really missed the two of you, and I'm glad that you're back.
We're back.
All right.
Is back.
The band is back.
The trio is back.
The Three Musketeers.
Right. Last time we ably handled it. It was on the question of education. Yes. But today is a bit different because then we'll be handling something to do with health. Yes. Cancer we have spoken about before.
Absolutely.
But tonight we'll be talking about surviving cancer.
Exactly.
And therefore, unlike Mr. Politician who will sell hope, that is never, coming.
No
at least for
evidence.
us, there's evidence. It's 101% sure that indeed there is hope upon that moment that you have been diagnosed with
Absolutely.
cancer.
Absolutely.
Indeed, and you say the politicians sell hope. In fact, they sell euphoria.
Yeah.
But indeed, on this side of the scope and this side of the conversation, we will be telling you how to, of course, live with this disease. There are several forms of it, and of course, trying to analyze where it comes from and how to also mitigate and look at the ways to look and live with it, especially in this 21st century. My name is George Maringa. Very delighted that you've joined us. Our sign language interpreter is Catherine Similar. But before that important conversation, we invite you to send your feedback to 2047 is our SMS line, at Muyakane, at Linda _Alela, at George Maringa _ on X, formerly Twitter, our X handles, as well as at TV47 News. But before then,
the highlights. All right.
Bankers raise concerns over the finance bill as it is currently, saying that if passed, many Kenyans will resort to using hard cash for transactions.
We predict with insights from data that this will have a negative effect.
19-year-old university student caught on camera assaulting a police officer has been charged with robbery with violence. The standoff on sale of Moka in the Coast region persists as Coast County leaders decline an invitation to have a meeting with Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi.
A very warm welcome to our viewers watching us on terrestrial platforms. We also welcome those of us watching on YouTube, as well as our social media platforms and our website. I am George Maringa. Catherine Similar is on sign language interpretation tonight. And let's get the show on the road, shall we? That important conversation on the People's Court will be coming your way after the news in just a short while. Now, the Milimani Magistrates Court has directed Ian Joga, who was filmed assaulting a police officer along Committee Road in Kasarani, be treated at the Kenyatta National Hospital and thereafter be detained at the Industrial Area Remand until Wednesday. Ian was presented before court to face various charges on robbery with violence and traffic-related offences. Franklin Wala opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
University student 19-year-old Ian Joga has taken his plea after assaulting a police officer on duty. In court documents, Ian was facing at least 3 criminal charges and 3 traffic charges. The first charge was robbery with violence. His lawyers, led by Duncan Okachi and Soyinka Lempa, told the court how their client was assaulted and manhandled after police arrested him. For this reason and others, they wanted the court to grant the accused a reasonable cash bail and allow investigators finalize their probe when Ian is free from police custody.
Even on his personal
However, the court ordered that Ian be treated at Kenyatta National Hospital and thereafter be detained at the industrial area remand prison until Wednesday.
So I'll give them 1 day, we come back tomorrow, and then we can argue that application.
On Wednesday, the court will rule on whether or not to have the accused detained further for investigation purposes or be released on a cash bail over his criminal charges. The criminal charges include robbery with violence, causing grievous bodily harm, and resisting lawful arrest.
The accused person before him is 19 years old. He was brought here by 21 armed police officers. The number of police officers who escorted him are more than his age. These police officers, Your Honor, if they had time to sit down, they would have produced an affidavit before you.
Meanwhile, a traffic court released the suspect on cash bail of 60,000 on traffic-related charges he was facing. The traffic offences include obstruction, carrying excess passengers, and disobeying verbal direction given by a uniformed police officer. It is alleged on the fateful day the young man is said to have violently attacked the police officer, also robbed him of his mobile phone worth 50,000 shillings and a battery from a police radio charter.
A 19-year-old robbing a mobile phone and a battery from an armed police officer. It's one of the worst plays to be played in our courts.
The ugly incident was witnessed along Community Road, Kasarani, on Sunday morning. After the road rage, the suspect escaped and was later arrested within Donholm and detained at Kasarani Police Station, Nairobi. Franklin Wala, TV 47.
Thank you, Wala, for that. A Ugandan murder suspect who escaped from Kiamisiri Police Station in Moya West Sub-County under unclear circumstances has been arrested by members of the public at Karia Village and handed over to the police. Kirinyaga County Criminal Investigation Officer Jason Moria has said that the suspect was arrested alongside another one who had escaped together with him from the police cells, as Chichi Josephine now tells us.
The Ugandan murder suspect who escaped from Kiamisiri Police Station in Moya West Sub-County was arrested alongside another suspect who had escaped together with him from the police cells.
Siku ya leo niko na furaha sana juu yule kijana aliua mama yangu wakati aliachiliwa police station ya Kiamisiri. Kutoka hiyo siku hatujawahi lala, tunashindanga nje, tunalala nje na bila askari. Kirinyaga
County Criminal Investigation Officer Jason Moria said the 23-year-old Filipino Muifu had been employed at Koimboni village where he is suspected to have murdered his employer Rose Mudhoni last year before he escaped only to be arrested last month.
Alikuwa na washukiwa wawili, mmoja alikuwa ni mshukiwa mauaji na alikuwa ametoka Uganda na aliweza kufanya ujanja yake pale kwa side na akatoroka wakiwa wawili, na polisi wamefanya kazi ya sianda na watu wote wawili wamekamatwa.
Jeffithan Joga, a resident of Karie in Moya, said he met the suspect over the weekend as he was looking for an employment opportunity, which he got, only for people to realize that he is the murder suspect that the police had been looking for.
Nilikutwa na watu kwangu, nikasikia wanataka yule Muganda tulikuwa naye. Nilikuta hawa watu wanasema ni mama yao aliuawa. Nikaona picha, nikaona ni yeye. Sasa nikawaambia juu polisi hawakuwa karibu, nipatiwe kamjes, tuende niwapeleke tumshike.
Alikuwa anauliza kazi, nikampea kazi, halafu mwishoe nikagundua huyo mtu ni mkora, ndio alitenda ile kitendo ya mauaji pale Komboini. Mimi nilimuuliza ID yake iko wapi. Sasa yeye wakati nilimuuliza ID, akaniambia ana ID yake inakuja mwezi wa 7. Akaniambia baba yake atatuma ID.
The suspect is currently in custody as the prosecution conducts investigations into the matter. Chichi, Josephine, TV 47.
Thank you, Chichi, for that. Kabete DCI investigators are probing the circumstances under which a suspect only identified by police as Galo Galo, died under unclear circumstances while in police custody at Kawangware Police Post. Detectives from Kabeto Police Station, Dagoretti Sub-County, say the young man was rescued from an angry mob after he had assaulted a person within Kawangware Market, Nairobi. A police statement further says that when the man was rescued, he was taken into their police custody at Kawangware Police Post as they consulted on how to take him for treatment following injuries inflicted by the mob. The deceased's family allege their kin was murdered while in police custody. Phase 5 of exhumation process in Shakahola has today reached its second day, where 7 more bodies have been exhumed, raising the death toll to 443. While issuing this information, Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odwor highlighted that they are working with more than 5 government agencies in carrying out the entire operation. The exercise will resume tomorrow for the 3rd day.
When someone dies, the investigation is very wide, from the place where that person was found, from the transportation of the body to the mortuary, to autopsy. And each and every agent usually have our own unique training on what to do in every stage. So that now, once each and every agency have done his or her part, a report is compiled, and whatever we found is compiled together to be taken to court for purpose of probably prosecution or things like that.
Now, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, together with universal healthcare workers, have vowed not to go to work if the government does not heed to their demands. During demonstrations in various areas, including Nairobi City, Kilifi and Elgeyo Marakwet counties, they have said that the frustration is out of hand and they want a listening ear. Among their demands are promotions of workers and hiring of employees on permanent and pensionable terms.
Clinical officers in Nairobi staged a strike to demand a listening ear from the government, citing that their needs are being neglected.
Tunataka tuone bajeti imewekwa, tujue watu wetu wanaenda kukua absorbed, na tujue enhancement ya risk allowance for clinical officers is going to happen.
However, they're not the only ones with such demands. UHC workers in Elgeyo Marakwet took to the streets, saying they want the government to sympathize with them, especially those who have been on contract for long.
Fenye hii mwaka ilisha, they never absorbed us. They want to extend their contract. Some of us are reaching. We are almost our retiring age and still in contract.
On the other hand, in Kilifi County, clinical officers were not left behind as they complained of what they termed as humiliation by the government, saying promotions are due, especially to those who have been in one position for a long time.
Kilifi imekuwa ngome ya kuwadharalisha watu wetu, kuwapatia kandarasi duni ambazo wanawalipa shilingi 15,000 hadi 30.
Meanwhile, the Council of Governors has mentioned that health function cannot go back to the national government.
And therefore the push to bring it back to the national government. And that is a narrative that can be bought by Kenyans, because Kenyans have seen what is happening in the health space as compared to the time when you did not have devolution or there before.
Vera Alberta, 247, Nairobi.
Thank you, Vera, for that. The ongoing debate over the sale of Moka persists as sellers complain about a lack of business despite the court lifting the ban on its sale. Leaders from the coast region argue that Moka has contributed to an increase in cancer cases. They have further ignored an invitation from the Ministry of Agriculture to iron out issues, as Paul Kirobi now tells us.
The standoff on the sale of Moka in the coast region still persists, even as Moka traders complain of being terrorized by the county askaris, and now most of the Moka marketplaces in Kilifi and Mombasa County have remained deserted for the last 2 days. The issuing confusion is still intense, despite a court lifting the ban on the sale and distribution of Moka. Some residents have argued that the county government should focus on fighting against contraband goods instead of fighting the sale of Moka.
Tukikimbia mbio mbio, hakuna mali hapa, ndo tumetegemea tunapata venye tunaweza kula, tunapata venye tunaweza lipa nyumba. Mwezi ndio inaelekea kuisha, tujalipa nyumba. Wanaofia wako na uoga juu pia huwezi toa gari yako, kusema kweli huwezi toa gari yako ukuje huku, hakuna security.
Sipokuja hapa sisi hatupati pesa, ndio maana tunawaletea chakula zetu. Kama ni uji, mimi nauza uji na niko na wao kama miaka 3.
Tangu walipoingia uongozini walipata Moka iko. Kwa nini sasa ndio wameangalia na haribu vijana?
Coast leaders, on the other hand, argue that the plant causes diseases such as cancer and that it has affected many youth in the counties.
Limeleta saratani huko kwao zaidi. Hata mmoja akakimbia marathon kuhakikisha kwamba anachangisha pesa za watu wa kule Embu watibiwe ugonjwa wa saratani.
And even as the leaders oppose the sale of Moka in their regions, they've refused to honor an invitation by Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi of allegations of being unfit to hold office. In a letter dated 4th of June, the patron of the Coast Parliamentary Group Kilifi North MP Owen Baya says they declined the invitation on the basis that they view Moka as an illicit drug as provided for in the Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Controls Act number 4 of 1994 and not as a cash crop under the Crops Act. The matter now seems to have taken a political angle, with the Kilifi North legislators said to table a motion before the National Assembly to ban the use of Moka.
We have to first canvass the issue of jurisdiction. Did that court have jurisdiction over something that happened in Mombasa? So mimi nimeambia mawakili wetu waende kotini to challenge the jurisdiction of that order.
Kilifi Women Representative Gertrude Mbeyu has now urged President William Ruto to weigh in on the matter.
Tukae na wewe, tukuelezee haya madhara, tukufundishe haya madhara. Maana hakuna mwanao hata mmoja ataenda kwa vibaraza Mombasa wala Kilifi ale Moka. Watakunywa chai kule State House, wale keki. Wetu ndio kula sumu ya Moka. Tumekataa. Rais, mimi nisikize. Tumekataa.
Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Thank you, Paul, for that. A project near you funded by a foreign entity is possibly not complete because of slow absorption of funds from development partners by the government. According to Deputy President, this is one of the factors impeding implementation of Mwananchi-oriented projects, as the National Treasury revealed that only 61% of such projects funded have been concluded in the last 10 years. This as questions linger on the modus operandi that the government follows to ensure smooth implementation of such programs. Moige William with the details.
We need to lessen bureaucracy and red tape so that we can make progress.
This inadvertent admission by the second-in-command possibly explains the strain in completion and implementation of Kenya's development partners' funded projects. Currently, there are 256 ongoing projects with a total value of 2 trillion shillings, but only 61% have been completed in the last 10 years. And now, development partners, led by the United Nations Resident Coordinator Stephen Jackson, have expressed their concerns regarding this situation.
When the UN was listed with a 0% implementation rate, in this very tent, just a few weeks ago, with the Deputy President, we reported an implementation rate of 86%. And the discrepancy there, of course, is that the majority of the work that the United Nations does with the support of the partners in the whole is quote-unquote off budget.
In defense of government, Cabinet Secretary for Public Service Moses Kuria admits to this challenge, but hints that the government plans to introduce absorption of funds as part of performance contracting. But his counterpart from the Ministry of Environment, Saipan Tuya, is seemingly of a different opinion on how to improve the situation.
We as government need to sort out in terms of the process. There is a lot of cleaning up required.
We really have to get things moving.
because money lying somewhere and is not going to its intended use against a backdrop of many challenges is really not desirable.
However, Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kiptoo lifted the lead on the conundrum facing development partners. Kiptoo calling for prudent implementation of budget plans, stating that the issue has been a challenge in addressing government operations.
When we plan a budget, we implement that budget. Otherwise, we plan and it's like planning to fail, and that is really not good. Something we need to know: when we put in the budget, let's implement the budget as planned. According to figures from the National Treasury, the country's toll projects are valued at 42.6 billion, with 195 billion still pending disbursement. Mwigi William, TV47.
Thank you, Mwigi, for that. To some politics, and tonight, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's ally and Embakasi North MP James Gakuya has dared to lead a mass walkout from the ruling UDA party if he loses in Friday's elections. Gakuya, who is seeking the UDA chairmanship in Nairobi, says he has no option but to leave the party if the elections will not be free and fair. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has already claimed a lead in the just concluded constituency polls, save for Starehe constituency that was called off.
The battle for supremacy in Nairobi between Governor Johnson Sakaja and his main rival, Embakasi North MP James Gakuya, has raised the stakes in the UDA party ahead of Friday's UDA chairmanship contest in the city. Gakuya has threatened to ditch the party if the elections will not be free and fair.
I'm overseeing something different from my original expectation, because where we are, if the party tried to do anything that is not reflecting the independency of the party, the freedom of members, and fair and free elections, then I am finding a situation where we are going to part very soon. Because you cannot build a party that you are not part of, that you are not recognized as a shareholder.
Gakuya, who is seeking to unseat Sakaja in the 2027 gubernatorial poll, is using the coveted post to position himself, despite Governor Sakaja claiming he has taken a firm lead in the just concluded UDA constituency elections, bagging 240 out of 340 delegates.
The time also has come that I also feel I am capable of running the city. So, as we speak, nothing can stop me from running the city, whether through the UDA ticket or any other ticket. But my vision cannot be stopped by anybody. This, we shall leave it to the people, because it's the people who decide.
The city supremacy battle has created a rift in the UDA party as Gakuya enjoys the support of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, whom Governor Sakaja blames for failing in fighting in UDA.
Hakuna mtu atasema ati yeye ndo alinipatia kiti ya kuwa governor ya Nairobi. Ni wananchi wa Nairobi milioni 5 ambao walinichagua kuwa governor wa Nairobi. So don't intimidate us.
President William Ruto weighed in on what he said was ethnic and personality-driven politics in his Madaraka Day of the CAF speech. The president further differed with his deputy, who told MPs to stick to their constituencies, as the number one in command told them to traverse the country in the execution of their duties. A section of Gachagua allied MPs have also vowed to oppose the finance bill for oppressing Kenyans, deepening the rift between Gachagua and Ruto. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo, for that. The Kenya Bankers Association, KBA, has encouraged both government and the National Assembly to re-evaluate the projected 16% value-added tax on financial transactions as detailed in the Finance Bill 2024. Appearing before the Finance and National Planning Committee on Tuesday, KBA Acting CEO Raymond Molenja said, should the Finance Bill of 2024 be enacted into law in its current form, Kenyan bank and mobile transactions are expected to surge by a minimum of 5%. Mike Kagwongo reports.
Kenya Bankers Association have opposed some proposals in the Finance Bill of 2024, especially the proposed 16% value-added tax on financial transactions. The Finance Bill of 2024 indicates indicates that the Kenya Kwanza government is putting out a comprehensive revision to the tax relief on transactions that were first implemented in 2022. The measures are intended to finance the budget for the fiscal year that begins on July 1st.
But the risk we might find ourselves is if we don't make clarity, that it may not end up punishing those that are already compliant.
One of the issues with this particular provision is that it actually does not give any notice period within which you're then required to integrate your system. So that is a concern. As you said, we don't want to have any guesswork. That kind of guesswork as to what kind of period that you need to integrate your system just brings more and more disputes, actually increases the cost of compliance for the taxpayers.
The excise fee on bank transactions has been moved back to 20% from 15% under the proposed law, while the excise duty on mobile phone transactions, such as M-Pesa, which was previously reduced to 12% from 15%, has now been increased to 20%. The Kenya Bankers Association states that the bank charges are a cost recovery rather than a direct payment for anything, regardless of whether or not VAT is applicable to payments of goods and services.
The moment now we say that it is VATable, they would then have to disclose both the VAT on the transaction and also the base price. So what we are saying is that it is not clear what this is supposed to be charged on.
Let's say 16% on 5. Let's not say on 30 or on 130, because there's 16% on 5. Yeah, that 16% will be on top of the 130. So your rate goes high.
This implies that in order to offset the increased tax burden, telecommunication companies will probably increase their transfer and withdrawal fees. Currently, consumers pay 29 shillings for withdrawals and 7 shillings for transfers between 101 and 500 shillings on M-Pesa. The transfer and withdrawal fees will therefore increase by at least 7.35 and 30.45 respectively, with a 5% increase. KBA says Kenya's progress towards becoming a digital superhighway may be hampered by hefty mobile transaction fees. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike, for that. The formal banking sector is venturing more and more into short-term, low-interest digital loans as Kenyans seeking such services for daily expenses increases. The Standard Chartered CEO, Kariuki Ngari, says seeking licensing from the Central Bank of Kenya as a digital credit provider remains difficult. But with the expanding prospects in its clientele, banks are focusing on data protection as one of the core settings of loaning apps.
As digital services grew popular during the COVID era, digital credit providers grew in popularity among Kenyans who sought easy ways of accessing short-term loans, which were largely necessitated by the lockdown which dragged the economy. However, the popularity came with a downside. Digital loans did not provide collateral, and in a desperate attempt to recoup money, some DCPs resorted to threats and, in some cases, phishing.
This really is a testament to the way we're working with clients to continue working. Yes, it's a difficult environment, but there's a way you can work with clients to ensure that they start repaying their loan or they're able to get money from elsewhere to ensure that the money is paid.
The CBK in late 2022 released regulations that such digital lenders had to adhere to ensure data security, bringing order to the budding sector, an order that lured in formal banks as well.
So we just see this market is continuing to grow. There's room for everyone, and I believe in a few years' time we'll be celebrating when we see the revenues that this particular product is bringing to us.
Now, in the spirit of digitization, banks are now stepping up the game with loan-standing lending apps, providing the short-term, low-interest loans. With a promise of better data protection, banking firms are now netting in a growing demand as Kenyans continue feeling the pinch of a harder economy.
If you don't repay, you'll be in the bureau. Then you'll have a problem accessing other loans. So the